How about some tips for creating brand slogans, taglines, and jingles? Jack Shabrowski here. So I have a number of tips from a variety of different sources on making memorable slogans, taglines, and jingles. So I want to go through them. And at the end of this, we'll talk about the parts of them that are similar and the parts that are different, and spend a little time talking about the tips to making memorable slogans. So let's start with 6 tips for making memorable slogans. 6 tips for making memorable slogans. We start with highlight a key benefit. One of the ideas behind creating a slogan would be to highlight the key benefit, point of differentiation, or unique selling proposition for the particular brand. What is it that we want the brand to say to consumers? Second, explain the company's commitment. And of course, what we're talking about here is typically the commitment that the company has to satisfying the wants and needs of its customers. So the idea that the company should have its commitment to our customers in its slogan. An example of this, of course, is the famous Gerber's Baby Food Company tagline: "Babies are our business, our only business." This truly explains the company's commitment to taking care of your baby. Keep it short. Keep it simple. Slogans should never be longer than one sentence and ideally should hit the sweet spot with between 6 to 8 words. No commas, no double-barreled meanings, no hyphens, and no conjunctions. The slogans should be wordsmithed to give them a rhythm and a ring. A slogan longer than a single word should fulfill at least 2 of these 3 criteria. It should have a rhythm, it should have a rhyme, or it should have a ring to it. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Slogans, whether read or heard, or should be pleasing to the ear and to the eye. Fluid sounding slogans are much more recognizable and memorable for later recall than those that are hard to remember because they're hard to say. And finally, the 6th tip: stay honest. It's imperative that the slogan accurately reflects your unique selling proposition and what this brand is all about. Slogans are those memorable phrases often used in conjunction with logos and in advertising campaigns. They are claimed to be the most effective means of drawing attention to one or more aspects of the product or brand. Okay, how about 5 tips for slogans? We just had 6 tips. Here's a different source, and from this source, it's the 5 tips for slogans. This one starts with the concept of start from the logo. A slogan works with a logo in order to promote the brand identity, not against it and not in separation. So the slogan should fit the logo, and the logo should fit the slogan. Give the project the time it needs to be successful. That is, you're going to need at least an hour or 2 to research the company, to understand what you're doing with the slogan, what the company stands for, what the brand stands for, and a couple of hours to brainstorm ideas after your initial research, and then maybe 1 or 2 or 3 more hours of consulting and editing to wordsmith that particular slogan down to something that is the best possible one phrase marketing campaign that you can come up with. Keep it simple. Sound familiar? We had that just a second ago. A logo is only effective if your audience can understand it quickly. And the same thing can be said for a slogan. Simplicity is what you're aiming for. Make it funny if you can. My response to that is, whoa, hang on. Maybe. In some cases, it's good to have a humorous slogan. I think if I have a funeral parlor, having a humorous slogan probably doesn't work. If I have a serious product, perhaps it needs a serious slogan. Um, when you bring humor into a situation, make sure that it's appropriate and make sure that it will not backfire on you. Number 5, of course, is also very critical, as we said in the 6 tips for slogans just in front of this. Stay honest and don't exaggerate your product. Don't pitch your product as something that it is not. Pitch your product and your brand for exactly what it is, not what you wished it was. How about 7 tips? We had 5 tips, we had 6 tips, now we have 7 tips. 7 tips for creating memorable slogans. Does this sound familiar? Keep it short and simple. If Las Vegas had ever tried to use whatever you do while you're in Vegas stays in Vegas instead, they went with what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Shorter, simpler, more catchy. Perhaps would have never became part of popular culture. Keep your slogan to 9 or 10 words or less. Be consistent. Consistent branding is always the key to becoming memorable. Okay, so don't have a slogan that changes every 6 months. Don't have a slogan that doesn't match the unique selling proposition or doesn't match the logo or doesn't match the other communications. Be consistent. Focus on what makes your brand different and different in a way that creates value for the customers. Number 4, make it timeless. You have to change with the times, but when you're working on a slogan, try to create a slogan that will have some longevity associated with it. Ensure that the slogan could stand alone. Make sure that the slogan tells your audience what your brand stands for without any additional information. Consider your target market. Understand who you are communicating with. The slogan has to match your target market and what they're interested in and what and how they talk. Get input. Be creative is a tough job, but avoid doing it alone. Work with some others if you can to get some additional input. But at the end of the day, if you're responsible for a memorable slogan, you need to be the judge of what the best alternative is. How about how to create rock solid taglines that truly works? How's that? Now, step number 1, be true to your mission. There's always been a saying in copywriting world, be clear, not clever. Pick the focus of your slogan and stick with it. So what? Ask yourself the question. So what does this slogan mean and do for my customers? And then do a little wordsmithing. Make sure your tagline reflects your business's image, how you're different from the competition, your brand's personality, and your company's personality. How to write rock solid taglines? Make sure your slogan is ABC, ambitious but credible. Honesty is still the best policy. Don't try to convince people that you are something that you are not. Appeal to the emotional side of the consumer's brain. Think about joy, excitement, etc. You have a better chance of connecting with people if you can tie into them emotionally. You might stand out with clever wordplay. We call it wordsmithing where I come from. There's no easy way to come up with a clever saying, but you can start by coming up with what you want to say and then think of ways that you might say it in a more clever way. Just say no to cliches and superlatives. Avoid the superlatives and avoid the cliches. Um, if people can sarcastically cite your slogan to disapprove it when they experience setbacks, you've probably crossed the line. Number 5, maintain a strong connection to your business. You can see here that we have a number of slogans on the left-hand side and the product category of the brand on the right-hand side. And I dare you to try to match these up. The point, of course, is that a slogan should strongly relate to the product, the brand it promotes. It's always best if there's a strong, interesting link between your slogan and your product that makes it the logical slogan for that particular brand in that particular product category. All right, finally, how about 8 tips for writing a mind-blowing slogan? See if any of these ring a bell with you. Short is sweet. Highlight the most appealing part of your brand in as few words as possible. The shorter the slogan, the easier it is to remember. Be original. Don't try to mimic or adapt some other well-known slogan or tagline that's already successful. No more got milk parodies or anything else. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas parodies. Be original. Don't be a copycat. Be realistic. Be honest. Make sure that your claims are accurate and that they're not exaggerated. And then, of course, they point out that you should be poetic. What they really mean is you ought to have a well-written slogan. Rhyme and flow and pleasing to hear and pleasing to look at are critical aspects of writing a good slogan. Make it readable. Make it sayable. That is, make it easy to read, make it easy to say. Focus on a consumer benefit. Focus on a consumer benefit. Burger King lets you have it your way. Have it your way. State Farm, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And De Beers, diamonds are forever. And then finally, one of my beliefs, don't be a comedian. Humor can be an effective way to communicate your slogan, make it memorable, but be careful. Newer and smaller companies are often better off with a slogan that's descriptive and tied to your emotions and not trying to be funny. So, in conclusion, a good slogan can give your company a boost of charm and presence, but a bad one can leave potential customers confused and not buying your product. With a good slogan, your promotional campaign will remain vivid in the minds of people. Here are some factors that each of these had. Notice that some factors come up over and over and over again. Your slogan needs to be short and simple. It needs to be honest, based on what your brand is and not something that it is not. It needs to focus on benefits and unique selling propositions. And of course, your slogan should be original. And then once you design it, you need to consistently use it in all of your communications. Good luck with building that new slogan.